Black women's hair has always been a feature that has set them apart from the Asian, Latina, Caucasian, and Arab women of the world, whether people are okay verbalizing this fact or not. For centuries, it's been treated as a weakness in need of correction. Weaves, wigs, perms are all exceptionally big business, and they've been created as a countermeasure meant to correct, that's air quotes, black women's natural born defect, also in quotes. Sadly, this line of thinking is our centuries long gift from our former masters, Europeans. Prior to African contact with Europe, one must believe that African women had no issue with their own reflection. Well, in the late 1960s and into the 1970s, there was an awakening. Black women realized they were beautiful exactly the way they were made, and they went out into the world very proud of their natural hair. But something happened. The lessons of yesterday were slowly forgotten. The movement slowed to a crawl and simply faded away. By the 1990s, it was rare for any woman to wear an afro unless she was starting over with her damaged scalp. Not a single black girl in my high school class of 1996 wore her hair in its natural state. To this day, women, not just black women, embrace the artificial as they look to optimize appearance. Makeup, implants, eyelashes, tanning, plastic surgery. It's kind of a mess out there. But even with that becoming the norm with other ethnicities, it seems to me that black girls are forced to start down this road earlier than any of the other girls in the world. They get their hair permed or straightened at a very young age. So how did we get here? And will there be another awakening? Stay tuned and I'll show you what I found. My mother was born in 1954 and was almost 12 around the time that this article was written in 1966. Shortly after its publication, Jet magazine, also published by the Johnson Media Company, featured its first cover with a black woman wearing her natural hair. This is despite being in publication for 14 years and publishing 52 issues a year, more than 700 covers without ever showing a black woman as beautiful with natural afro hair. When the natural hair movement hit full swing in the early 1970s, my mother was a teenager. The natural hair and beauty movement had a deep impact on her, and she never saw it as just a passing fad. It imprinted on her a profound dissatisfaction with the way that the world viewed black women, their complexions, and their hairs. But most significantly, it left her deeply bothered about the way that African Americans viewed themselves. Occasionally, her anger would flare up and she would go into a tirade about black folks' poor self-image and inferiority complex. As early as I could understand these rants, I remember thinking that this was important and these were ideas worth remembering. I wasn't sure exactly what I was supposed to do with this, but I do remember thinking this must be important. Now I have a black wife and a black daughter who wear their hair in its natural state, no chemicals. They often braid, plait, or occasionally press their hair so that it can be trimmed. The way that my daughter twirls and whirls when her natural hair has been pressed and flows down her back, I can tell that her self-perceptions have been at least partially colonized. She is way too happy to have her hair straightened, but living in a predominantly white setting, it's going to be normal for her to project that beauty standard onto herself. We allow it, and we try not to make her feel bad about the way that she feels, but very shortly after straightening, usually within days, her hair is braided, plaited, or cornrowed back into a typical natural hairstyle for a black girl. This allows her to be a competitive swimmer, soccer, lacrosse, and track athlete. She has zero concerns about sweating or getting submerged in the water. But the few times that she has had her hair straightened and was preparing to take photos while her hair was still in the straightened form, she started skipping practice, staying indoors, and generally trying to avoid sweating. And this made me think, this is precisely why we don't straighten your hair. Look at this bondage. Now, many of the ideas that my mother would express, and that my wife now expresses, are succinctly summarized in this article here. Now, when quoting directly from this article, I'm going to have my friend Natasia do the reading. Natasia, if you would.
An increasing number of Negro women are turning their backs on traditional concepts of style and beauty by wearing their hair in its naturally kinky state. Though they remain a relatively small group, confined primarily to the trend-making cities of New York and Chicago, they are frequently outspoken and always aware of definite reasons why they decided to go natural. We as Black women realize that there is beauty in what we are, without having to make ourselves into something we aren't, contends Susie Hill, 23-year-old staff field worker with the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. A veteran of the Dixie civil rights fight, currently involved in Dr. Martin Luther King's crusade against Chicago slums, she is quick to add, "It's practical. It rids us of those frustrations that Negro women know so well, the fears that begin when you're little. So many Negro girls feel frustrated because their hair won't grow, or because they had what is called bad hair. They aren't made to realize that they have nothing to be ashamed of and go through a lifetime of hiding from themselves, avoiding swimming, being uneasy at dances when they start to perspire because their hair will go back, running from rain. By the time that they are adults, this feeling has become so much a part of them, they are even afraid to answer the telephone if their hair hasn't been done. Negro women are still slaves in a way. Economics is a part of it too," notes Diana Smith, 20, another stalwart at King's Urban headquarters where natural hair has become a badge of honor. "It's a shame, but many poor Negro housewives take money that should be grocery money and use it to get their hair done. Now that wigs have come along, I see kids whose families are on welfare, wearing them to high school. Wigs and raggedy coats. Society has forced the standard of straight hair on them to the extent where they feel it's something for which they should sacrifice." For Lee, the implications of wearing natural hair have been less than humorous due to the experiences of her two young daughters. Both wore naturals until recently, when name-calling by their grammar school peers sent them scurrying tearfully back to the straightening comb. Like all women, those who wear naturals are concerned about male response and recognize that short hair might detract from their femininity. Thus, the earrings, usually of the hoop or dangling variety, has become almost a necessity for those with close-cropped crests. I didn't realize how important it was until I went to the store one day without my earrings or makeup. Says a petite accountant. I was wearing slacks, and I thought I looked all right until a man came up to me and asked, "Son, is this where you catch the bus?" You wouldn't catch me dead without my earrings now. Others have been heartened to detect a corresponding movement toward a natural look for Negro men, meaning that the male disdains hair straightening and wears his hair at a previously frowned upon length or height. Frequently, naturals of opposite sexes have found themselves attracted to each other out of kindred spirit. Black people have been taught to be ashamed of themselves and their blackness for so long that it has been difficult for them to accept each other.
Now, the interesting thing about the revolution that was announced in this article is that the very same issue of Ebony magazine was literally filled with ads for wigs, hair straightening products, and skin lightening products. The very magazine that was made to restore our pride after centuries of abuse was preying on Black women's insecurities with these ads that basically told them, if you don't look like this, well, you might not be beautiful. I view this as kind of cruel. I view this as very confusing for a person who was reading these magazines, perhaps not with a critical eye, but was just taking it all in. The issue of men not finding women appealing is mentioned in the article. And I understand that this is a huge concern, and one that I think my mom was actually trying to influence in me and my three brothers. But if I'm going to be completely honest, I can't say that growing up in a Eurocentric society had no effect on me. At baseline, I do prefer a woman when she has long hair. For the most part, I have become indifferent about whether that hair is long because it's straight, braided, twisted, or dreaded. But yes, it is hard for me to visualize a woman as being at optimal attractiveness as if her hair is not either pulled back or falling down around her shoulders. I guess my heart and mind have been colonized to a degree. Now, I remember cartoons like this as a kid.
Burly wool, a real sharp curly wool, whose line is oh so smooth when it spreads it on. Sharp or smooth, he's in the groove, we're loving it.
This is my first idea of seeing women as beautiful, and I mean, not to be too gross, but this was my first experience being aroused by a woman's appearance. Also, Bob's Beauties. I remember seeing their legs and just something in my mind said, "Whoa, these women are beautiful," and this is like exciting.
Can you do?
Never mind, Bob.
No, look, see, Mike, higher.
As well as Vanna White here. These were my first images that I remember kind of like booting up the software, and they're all white women. Now, I think that for many black men, this was a normal experience. Black men growing up in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, seeing women on TV really just meant seeing white women on TV, because we didn't have control of our own image, and white people pretty much did not care to put images of sexy black women on TV. So TV was covered in images of sexy white women and basically no images of black women. So it would be normal for a black man's first arousal visually, because it doesn't take much for a little kid who hasn't seen much to be aroused. It wouldn't be unusual for his first arousal to be from an image of a white woman and not a black woman. And I think that this had a certain imprinting on a lot of us. So, hair in a long, straight form is kind of like the baseline appearance that a lot of black men have been conditioned to appreciate. Meanwhile, gorgeous women exist in all colors and hairstyles. It's not like that's the only way women can look gorgeous, but this is the imprintation. This is like the first that we have experience with. Now, I can only assume that black women creeping back to wigs, weaves, and perms in the 1990s is an attempt to catch and maintain the attention of the black men that black women hope to attract. So if black women specifically, are moving towards the artificial, it's because they believe that's what black men want to see. The thing is, there are plenty of women who don't use weaves, wigs, or perms and simply braid, dread, or twist their hair into very attractive styles. YouTube and Instagram channels and empires are being stood up all around the internet by showing black women how to care for the natural hair. And now more than any other time in history, black women have been able to speak to other black women and share with them the methods of caring for their hair in the natural state. No longer do they have to rely on marketing and education provided by hair care companies, wigs, or weave stores to unlock the secrets of the best look. But black women aren't the only ones that take issue with their hallmark, or I guess their central ethnic features. White women have sought out lip injections and skin tanning, hair bleaching, colored contacts, blonde hair dye as a means of becoming more attractive. Asian women have been convinced to change the appearance of their eyes to become more attractive, or they have tried to become more pale. Indian women have been taught to bleach their skin to give them a beauty advantage. And Arab women have been convinced to have their noses surgerized to become more attractive, that down-turning hook sort of thing. Now, my belief is, on average, most women are simply average in attractiveness. This is a cold, hard fact that women of all colors, hair types, body types are going to have to deal with. You're going to have to accept the fact that most women are average, and you are too. Now, here I've compiled pictures of white American women and teenagers in their most basic form from the 1920s, 30s, and 40s. Now, very few are wearing makeup, and their hairstyles are not what we would consider attractive today. So with their hair and makeup essentially neutralized, you can see that the vast majority of these women are not what we would consider beautiful. Now, I'm not going to slander them and call them ugly, but I would say that they're very, very average. And that even some of these women here, beauty contest competitors, and they're not actually what I would consider beautiful, except for these two. These two right here, they appear quite attractive almost 70 years later. I would even call them beautiful. But the rest of them are looking really average over here. But the difficult truth that most women, black, Asian, white, Latina, Arab, must deal with is that most women do not possess extreme beauty. Extreme beauty is rare. And because it is rare, it's precious. And yet they are forced to live in a society where a hefty premium in money, attention, and fame is paid to anyone who is exceptionally beautiful. Young female beauty is perhaps the most precious commodity on the globe. If you are beautiful, the world will open its doors to you. Rich men will want to marry you. Your image will be plastered all over walls. There are books written about the advantages of being a beautiful woman. So when a woman looks in the mirror and she doesn't like what she sees, she may target her hair, her eyes, her nose, or even her skin color. But at the end of the day, it turns out there's a very scientific reason why she's average, and it's not any of those things. She's average appearing, not because of any one feature. She's average and not beautiful because the combination and proportion of her features has rendered her average. See, anthropologists have compiled reams of data where they compare beauty across continents and cultures and time. And they found that the greatest determinant of whether or not one human perceives another human as beautiful is the proportion of their features and the symmetry of their face. And when it comes to women, additionally, the smoothness of their skin, their fullness of their lips, so that's actually universal. Even though black women are known to have full lips, fullness of lips is a universally considered attractive feature around the world. Larger than average eyes, so think Disney princess. And last of all, hair length. But it's more like hair health and length. Volume is more attractive to men than whether or not the hair is straight or not. But yes, if you can perceive that there is a lot of hair, it is more attractive than if there is less hair to most men on most of the planet. But a lot of these studies have consisted of just face studies. They didn't really include hair at all. It was just the face. Probably to neutralize the effect of a hairstyle, of a trendy hairstyle. Adornments in the form of makeup and hairdos, clothing, it's all an attempt to make women who have been less blessed by nature catch up to the natural beauties who are getting all of the attention in husbands and mates. Lipstick creates the illusion of lips being fuller. Eyeliner and mascara create the illusion that the eyes are larger, and remember I mentioned that large eyes are considered attractive. And foundation creates the illusion of flawless and youthful skin. And of course, wigs and hair weaves will create the appearance of high volumes or long length of hair. Now, a brunette can dye her hair blonde year after year, and she may attract men who have some kind of hang up on a blonde woman. An Asian girl can get a surgery to widen her epicanthic folds or sharpen her nose to look more European, and in doing so, she may appeal to men who are hung up on that European aesthetic. An Arab girl can get a surgery to correct her down-turning nose, and black girls can glue on some eyelashes, a wig, foundation, lipstick, and in doing so they may get lingering glances in the subway, or they might get more flirtations. But in the end, in all of these cases, none of these women have actually become more beautiful, well, unless there's a surgery involved. Of course, they have actually become more beautiful. The Kardashians proved that. But they have put on a costume. Most women are not getting surgery. Most women are just putting on costumes in the forms of wigs and eyelashes, and then they're enjoying the world's response to that costume. All of that said, as I was finishing this video, I looked around and I realized that I think we are in the midst of a slower and less dramatic black woman natural hair movement. I think this is only enhanced by the fact that there's a documented association between hair perming products and uterine cancer. So now at this point, we had to face that not only is perming your hair unnatural and it kind of destroys your hair over time, but it's also leading to uterine cancer. So, but when I look on television commercials over the last few months, I've noticed that there are huge amounts of women, black women, with their natural hair, either in an afro style or twisted or braided or something, but huge numbers of black women who appear on television are wearing their natural hair, and I see it out in public, and it's not really being announced. It's not so in your face as it was in the 60s with big, huge afros that were perfect spheres, but it is there. There are a lot of women who are not perming their hair anymore. But there also seems to be a very strong contingent in the entertainment and social media sphere that embrace the artificial, and that's for all races and women. It may be that this is the new normal, and this is always going to be the case. Both will simultaneously exist, and they'll battle back and forth. But I look forward to the day when the natural overwhelms the artificial, and black women are freed from this bondage of wigs, weaves, and perms en masse. But let me know what your experiences are and what you think. Until next time.